And everyone say hallelujah. Hallelujah. I will only take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about the story, but I'm just an ordinary Christian guy. I do pastor a church in Shelbyville, Tennessee for the last 25 years. I've been married to a wife for 44 years. I have 2 children. I have 3 of the most incredible grandsons that's ever lived in the world. 21 years ago, the Lord asked me to go to Nepal in Northeast India, and we became involved in a ministry there. Our ministry is to teach Sunday school teachers to teach children. Each year we train 12,000 18 to 24-year-olds. I've traveled all through the Himalayas. I've trained a lot of AG Sunday school teachers. Of those Sunday school teachers, they lead about 10,000 Hindu children to the Lord every year. In 2019, I was on a regular trip. I traveled there twice a year. I was passing through the Delhi airport, and something happened for the first time at that time of 18 years of traveling. The first security officer asked me, "Are you a Christian?" "Yes, I am." "Will you be with Christians in India?" "Yes, I will." "And will you give any money to the Indian Christians in India?" And I said, "Yes," because I'd always done it and never had a problem. He said, "We need to have a further discussion." They took me to a desk where I was interviewed by 4 different officers in the Delhi airport, and they all asked the same question: "Are you a Christian? Will you meet with Indian Christians? Will you give them any money?" After an hour of interrogation, they cleared me to go on. I went to the next place in Bagdogra, which is in West Bengal, Northeast India. Upon arrival, I was arrested. I was taken into custody. I was questioned very harshly and very strenuously in all different types of ways for over 8 hours. And by the time my interrogation was over, I had been traveling for 40-something hours. I had not eaten much food. And they interviewed me by 6 different officers. A tax officer, a security officer, the customs department. And they all asked the same question: "Are you a Christian? Will you meet with Indian Christians while you're here? Will you give any Indian Christians money?" You see, what happened is something terrible had happened across India, and I was not paying attention to the Indian news. I was going to be with Christians. I was going to celebrate. I was going to worship the Lord that we all love and trust and believe in today. But something changed. A darkness had come over India in a new and a different way that was very, very bad. After a long interrogation, they took me to have a medical examination that night. And in that medical examination, when the doctor came to me, which was a lady, she was chewing betel nut and tobacco together, which is a very common thing, as you know, in India, even for the ladies. Her first words: "Are you a Christian?" "Yes, ma'am, I am." She spit that all over my shoes and my feet. She was so disgusted to have to talk and work with a Christian guy. Later on that night, they could not find me at jails. Festival was going on. The jails were all full. They took me to a training hospital where I was held that night. In that hospital, the emergency room where I was at, people were strewn all over the floors and the cots and the beds, and they were bleeding and they were moaning and they were groaning. That night, I watched 10 Indian people die in that emergency room. There was clipboards on the end of their beds, and they said HIV, TB, dengue. There was a dengue epidemic going on in that part of India in that particular month. And in that room where I was at, there was thousands and thousands of mosquitoes. And they would share the blood with those people, and they would come and share that blood with me. And I thought, how much worse could this get? Well, a man comes by with a cardboard box, and he has needles stabbed all in the top of the box. And he said, "I'm taking your blood." I'm thinking, why are you taking my blood? I'm not sick. There's nothing wrong. But he drew blood from me with a needle that was not sterile, stabbed it back into the box, as he had done with so many people that had TB. And so I was afraid. I was upset, like you naturally would be. I lost hope. I was not with anybody I knew. I was being watched by 2 armed guards as if I was some type of national criminal. The next day, they took me to a judge, and they stuck me in a cage with 20 other Indian people, men who had been arrested, then into a panel van off to the prison. And they put me into a prison. Nobody knew where I was at that knew me. I didn't know where I was at. I asked one of those customs guys, I said, "Why do you have so many security people watching me? I'm not from here." where would I run? Where would I go? I wouldn't even know which direction to try to escape in Siliguri to get away from you. And I went into the prison shortly after I was there. I had 3 men who were homosexual. Came to me and they fell at my feet and they said things and they rubbed my feet, and I had no idea what was going on. And they got done and I asked the guy that was next to me, I said, what was that all about? He said, they were blessing you. He said, tonight they will take advantage of you when nobody's watching. And they're excited about it. They're excited. I prayed the most serious prayer I've ever prayed in my life. God, how in the world are you going to get me out of this? Prison was not a problem anymore. There was a nighttime ahead of me of darkness. Later that night, the guards came and got me and took me to the hospital where they could take care of me and watch me to keep any of the other prisoners from hurting me. On the second night, there came a great flood, a great storm, and all of the prison flooded out, and there was raw sewage and everything flowing through the floors. The water was deep. The rats began to climb up into the window, and the metal bed that I was on, the rats would climb up into that place. And they were just trying to get out of the sewage and water like I wanted to be. But it's not an easy thing for an American guy. I'd been to Nepal and India for years. I love the people. I still love the people. But it was difficult. Many people say, blessed are those who are persecuted. Yeah, when it's somebody else being persecuted, it's easy to pray that prayer. But let me tell you, when you are the persecuted, when you are the person away from everything you know, from everybody you know, you're the refugee you was talking about, it's scary. But the Lord was there. On that third morning when the sun came up and it began to shine through the bars of that prison, on the wall became the shadow of a cross. Hope had been gone for the night. But boy, my hope came running back. The Lord says, I know what I'm doing, just don't mess it up. Let me finish what I'm doing. And for 7.5 months, that is what happened. Several months into my ordeal, and I think this is the thing I'd like for you to really hear the most. I've written a book, it's out back if you want to get it, about the whole 7.5 months. But there was a man that came to see me, and they prosecuted me for 3 years. They couldn't find me guilty. They started a second time to prosecute me for a 7-year prison term. And he came and he said, Pastor, I want you to know that we hate you. You come to our country and you lie to our poor and you lie to our children and tell them there's hope in Jesus Christ. He said, it's a lie. The best thing that could happen to every poor child in India is they would die tonight so they could reincarnate to a better life tomorrow. He said, here's what is going to happen in India, and you're going to watch this from your prison. If you're not dead already, I hope you die in prison. He said, but India is going to be, in the next few years, a Hindu-only country. Every person in India will convert to Hinduism. They will leave the country or they will be eliminated. He said what India needs to be a great country is the death of 330 million Indians. If you'll check the numbers, you'll find out that there's, in the stat books, there's 330 million Indian Muslims and Christians in India. He was a member, he said, a leader of the BJP party there. I found out later he was an RSS guy. And there is a dark, dark war against the Christians of India. Now, there's another book in the group I'm with today. It's called FIACONA, the Federation of American Indian Church Organizations of North America. It's kind of like your 20th celebration. It's very hard to say it all and get all the words in the right places. But we need your help. We need you to help us do the work that we do in Washington, D.C. Washington, our government, the State Department, ignores the problems of India. They deny that they even happen. They came to me and told me, we are not going to help you, and they didn't. So tonight, come and see us, volunteer, join, and help. Remember the words of Mordecai to Queen Esther. Don't think because you're safe for us in North America or even in Kerala that this horrible darkness will not find you.